would tell you the story of an odyssey, about a chosen leader who no one wanted and no one expected.
Tell me your story. Regardless of what I do next, there's something we cannot overlook. Seamus has the support of the Church of Light, and I do not.
Many within the Church are on our side, Duke Ivan. When the moment comes, they will be behind you.
I certainly hope so, Murizel, and I appreciate your efforts to rally them to our cause. But what of Elrath? So far he has been silent, but maybe that's because he's fine with the idea of Seamus sitting on the throne. What can I hope to achieve if the dragons have already ordained our fates?
No fate but what hand makes.
The Orc Kente is right, my lord. The dragon's ways are mysterious, and it is often difficult to grasp the full extent of their actions. I was wondering what kind of advice I could offer you, my lord, but I seem to recall an elven tale that would fit the matter at hand.
Rowena of Unicorn speaks highly of you, Lysair. I would hear your story.
Are my ladies and lords all familiar with the people we call the Sheldon?
The Sea Elves.
Indeed, our seaborn cousins who wander the oceans of Ashen. I want to tell you the story of a young Sheldon. To outsiders he was known as Wisloth, or simply Wis. Wisloth was the eldest son of a famous captain and great hero, Osrath Ilrian. Now, Osrath Ilrian was getting old, and intended to retire. It was no secret he would appoint Wis as his successor. Nobody had asked Wisloth what he wanted. If they had, they would have known he had no interest in taking his father's place. What place did he crave for himself, you ask? Well, Wisloth had not figured that out yet. And it seems the dragons had grown bored of waiting for him to make a choice. As all sea elves, Wis was an expert sailor and a great swimmer. But Shalassa was so angry that night that even he was struggling not to drown. The last thing he saw, before losing consciousness, was his ship being swallowed by the storm. How many days did Wisloth drift with only hunger and thirst as companions? One day, he woke up lying on the sands of an unknown shore. Rather than cursing the dragons, he was grateful to be alive. Silana and Shalassa had shown mercy. Curious to see where fate had landed him, Wisloth set out to explore. The first creature Wisloth came across was a lone unicorn, grazing under the cool shadows of the trees. To Wisloth's surprise, the majestic animal offered to become his mount. Where there are tame unicorns, there are often elves.
You know, this story is starting to sound somewhat familiar. Are there white tigers next?
There will be no tigers in this story, Duke Ivan, but I can promise you some surprises. Next, Wisloth came across a herd of twilight stags, moving silently through the forest. Wisloth decided to follow the stags, as they seemed to beckon him along. The stags led Wisloth and his mount to a small clearing. Pixies and spirits were dancing around a standing stone, half covered in moss and plants. Though he was a sea elf, Wisloth knew enough about the customs of the elves living on land to recognize a dragon line stone, marking an underground river of dragon blood, the source of all magic. If there were other elves nearby, then he might well find them at the convergence of the dragon lines, where the power would be strongest. Traveling from stone to stone, Wisloth eventually reached a stone circle. This was what Wisloth had been looking for, a nexus of the dragon lines. As he approached the monument, Wisloth noticed a figure sitting next to the largest stone, meditating. The woman, dressed in the robes of a druid, was probably not older than him, despite her silvery hair. She observed Wisloth as he dismounted, piercing him with her amber eyes. There was a pride and defiance in her gaze, but Wisloth also sensed something else, a deep, familiar loneliness.
You are not of my people. My name is Wistloth. I was on a ship. I fell overboard during the storm, and I followed the dragon lines here.
You are a Sheldon. We haven't seen your kind this far north for many, many moons.
I don't want to burden you with my plight. Is there a port nearby? I've been walking for days.
I believe Felista did most of the walking.
Felista? The unicorn?
If she likes you, I shall trust you. Follow me to my camp, Sheldon.
Thank you, my lady. Can you tell me where we are? Is this Irulan?
This is the Twilight Archipelago. You are farther from home than you imagine.
Lady Dannon, who is this stranger?
Everything's fine, Silreal. Felista has found another castaway. This one seems to be a Sheldon.
Wistloth, at your service.
A sea elf, eh? Maybe Solana put you on our path to get us out of our predicament.
A shipwrecked sailor doesn't inspire much confidence.
Anyone can be thrown to the sea in a storm. What is your predicament?
We are castaways, Sheldon. Just like you.
We were on our way to Dragon Mist Island when our ship was caught in a maelstrom and crashed on the reefs north of here. We built new ships, but they were sunk. A tribe of Cyclops controls what comes and goes from the island, from the top of their cliffs.
Cyclops? They can be tricky. Are there not enough of you to oust them from their perch?
Short of climbing the cliff, which would be suicide, the only way to reach them would be for a few brave souls to sail through the maelstrom again and moor on the other side of the island.
I don't know if Providence or the dragons truly put me on this island, but neither Cyclops nor a maelstrom are going to keep me here.
As the true leader of my people, I must thank you for delivering us from the Cyclops. But no, I do not revere you like the others.
I seek no reward, Lady Dannon. Only a chance to rejoin my own people.
Silreal and the others think the dragons themselves sent you to save us. They wish you to join us on our journey. Where we are going has never been seen by Sheldon eyes.
It is to our mutual benefit to remain together. I won't survive long in this perilous archipelago by myself. And if you intend to reach that Dragon Mist Island you mentioned, you'll need a navigator.
As much as I resent involving a stranger in this, your offer is sensible. Prepare the ship, Wistloth. We're leaving this cursed rock as soon as we can.
And so, Wistloth had chosen to knot his fate with that of Dannon and her entourage. He guided them away from the small island of the Cyclops into the treacherous seas of the Twilight Archipelago.
So what were Lady Dannon, Silreal, and the others looking for? Why had they gone there in the first place?
I'm glad you're asking, my lord. You see, Wistloth had refrained from asking too many questions at first, as he did not want to antagonize Dannon any further. But one night, as he was discussing the art of celestial navigation with the ever-curious Silreal, he finally brought up the subject.
Lady Dannon doesn't like me very much, does she?
You have to forgive her, Wistloth. She has much on her shoulders. It's not easy for someone as young as she to lead such an expedition.
What is so important about Dragon Mist Island?
You don't know much about our customs.
You are the first Sylvan ones I have ever met.
Sylvan ones. That's what you call us. I suppose the name fits. We are Solana's children, nature's caretakers, safekeeping the delicate harmony between all living things. The archipelago is a place of powerful magic. Dragon lines cover the islands, all converging towards a single point.
Dragon Mist Island.
Exactly. Lady Dannon has been entrusted with conducting a very important ritual there, on the day of the summer solstice, right on top of the...
Shush! I think I heard something. To arms! We're being boarded!
By the goddess, what were those creatures? Orange-skinned brutes. And they're abominations that were equal parts horse and human. Are they demons?
You never heard of orcs and beastmen?
That's what they were. I had heard of them, but had never seen one. How could the wizards defile Solana's harmony like that?
Be thankful they did, my lady. Without the orcs, the demons would have conquered Ashan.
But they were created in the Seven Cities. What are they doing so far from their wizard masters?
Well, they rebelled for a start. But indeed, I never heard of orcs going farther than the Savage Islands or the Ashen Peninsula. I'll have to be very careful from now on. Something tells me they're not here by chance. These orcs and beastmen. Something is wrong with them.
You mean beyond the obvious?
It's hard to explain. I've met orcs before, and while they were savage and sometimes brutish, they were as intelligent as, say, the average human. These ones are just beasts. Look at them. They don't even talk, they grunt.
One thing is clear to me. We'll have to fight our way through their blockade.
Unless we find another way to escape these waters. Most of you sport rather impressive tattoos. Is there a story behind them?
Indeed there is. The story of our lives. These tattoos are a record of our deeds and of the events that defined us.
So should I assume that someone without many tattoos is either young or lazy?
Or maybe that person simply doesn't like to brag.
This was not built by the Sylvan ones, correct?
No, these are Chantery ruins. There are many scattered in the Twilight Archipelago.
These glyphs, they look like a map. A map of the Dragon Lines. But it looks like some pieces are missing.
Could it be some sort of riddle or puzzle? If that's the case, then what is it pointing at?
From time to time, the clouds give rest to the moon beholders.
Sorry, were you talking to me?
No, I was admiring the full moon, and it reminded me of a poem my father once wrote.
I see. Is this traditional poetry from Irulan? It sounded similar to the Naga's haiku.
We taught them the art of forging star silver. Maybe they learnt the art of poetry from us too.
Or the other way around.
I've been talking to the other Sheldon. You've been hiding a few things from us, Whisloth. They say you are some sort of prince.
I am the son of a captain, though I'm not sure that would grant me a seat at a king's table.
Your father's name is really Osrath Ilrian.
I'm afraid so. He actually chose that name for himself.
Great harmony. That's an incredibly pretentious name.
I'd say it suits him well.
My Elvish is rusty. Why is the name funny?
Monlin.
What?
That's the name of the elves' language. Monlin, not Elvish.
Right, Monlin. So what does Osrath Ilrian mean?
Dragon Eye Moonblade.
Oh, I see. Well, that does sound a bit bloated. Hold it right there. You speak Monlin, Kente.
How wonderful! Orcs are certainly full of surprises. On one of the countless small islands of the archipelago, the elves encountered a small group of shipwrecked Shalden, survivors from Whisloth's crew. Recognizing their captain's son, they immediately put themselves under his command. But while Whisloth was happy to be reunited with members of his own people, it also reminded him of who he was and the destiny that was written for him. Neither he nor the castaways he had found knew the final fate of the tree ship. Maybe his people needed him. He had promised to help Dannon and her people reach Dragon Mist Island. But while he was keeping true to his word, wasn't he betraying his own family? Such thoughts haunted him for the rest of the journey.
So who is Lady Dannon? Why was she chosen for this ritual of solstice?
Elder druids gather in the Sweat Lodge, and through dreams and meditation, they choose which young disciple will have to travel to the Elemental Forge to perform the ritual. It is a great honor to be chosen. Even more so for Lady Dannon. You see, she is the only child of King Cyrgal, and her father is putting all his hopes in her.
I heard that before. It seems she and I have more in common than we both thought. Is Cyrgal the king of all Irulan?
Great harmony, no. There are many kings and queens in Irulan, but all are vassals to the High King and competing to gain his favor.
I think I'm starting to understand. So if Dannon succeeds, it will bring a lot of prestige to her father. But if she fails...
Shame and dishonor on Cyrgal and his house. And at the High King's court, honor is a very serious matter.
So you've told me about Dannon's father. What about her mother?
We don't talk about her.
Why is that?
Because she's dead.
My lady.
Please, forgive me, Lady Dannon. I didn't mean to pry. I'm sorry about your loss.
Don't be. My silver hair is the only memory of her I chose to keep. She died years ago, during the Day of the Tears of Fire.
That's when Queen Tuidana and her people, that we now call the Dark Elves, set our capital on fire and assassinated High King Aniel.
Did she die in the fire?
No. She died when she chose to side with the Dark Elves, and my father had to put a sword through her. These currents are beyond treacherous. The seas of the archipelago were always a bit wild and unpredictable, but I never heard of anything like this.
There's worse. Look at this map. This is where we are, and these are the maelstroms.
They are located right on the dragon lines. Great harmony.
That's what I feared. Do you know what could cause this?
Something must be happening at the Elemental Forge.
That's where that ritual of yours is supposed to take place?
I see Silriel talked. Yes, one of the 4 great forges. The Elemental Forge of Summer. It is located on Dragon Mist Island.
Then we need to hurry. Whatever happened, or is still happening there, I'm beginning to suspect it's also the cause of the storm that brought me here. And by all accounts, it's only getting worse.
The clues the Shantaries had left on the obelisks were all pointing towards a maelstrom. While there was no telling of where this passage would lead, it seemed as if Shalassa was showing the elves how to escape the Orcs' blockade.
Here we go! Hang on, everyone!
Having fought their way through the Orc and Beastmen's blockade, the elves moored on the shores of a large, lush island. Unfortunately, it wasn't Dragon Mist Island. In order to reach the Elemental Forge, they needed to sail through a perilous passage, known to elves as the Strait of Malsini.
Malsini means dark soul.
Thank you, Kente. There were 2 small isles located there, surrounded by treacherous reefs. Even their names were ominous. Shadris and Sorleth. The Night Blade and the Grim Death.
Of course. So that's where the old saying comes from. Between Shadris and Sorleth.
Indeed. The elves agreed to stay on the island for a few days to prepare for their voyage. But they were wrong to assume the island itself did not hide any dangers. As the days passed, Wistloth started to realize some strange apathy was taking hold of his companions. At first, he dismissed it as mere weariness. The journey had been long and arduous, until one night, when Falista, the unicorn, woke him up. The ships were on fire.
Shalassa's great tides! What are you doing?
It's all right, Wistloth. Everything will be fine.
Fine? You've destroyed all our ships! How are we going to leave the island?
Why leave? This place is perfect. There is harmony here.
What about the ritual of solstice and the Elemental Forge? Dannon, what will your father think?
It doesn't feel that important anymore. All is in harmony. Can't you feel it, Wistloth?
The Dannon I know is haughty and abrasive and full of spark and determination. And she would never be so familiar with me. What's wrong with you?
If you don't feel the harmony, maybe you don't have a place here, Wistloth. Maybe you should burn too.
If not for Falista's nimble hooves, Wistloth would have been killed by the bewitched mob. Wistloth wasn't alone in avoiding being spellbound. The other sea elves, working to repair the ships, were also spared.